Colorado is on a roll, and Utah most certainly is not, but the two teams will collide on big noon kickoff this Saturday. Can Utah shock the world and break the 5-game skid? It's going to be very hard to do. Or will Colorado keep rolling? Probably. But let's break it all down on today's Locked On Utes and Locked On Buffs crossover.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes and Locked On Buffs your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. If you want more of our shows, make sure you guys like and subscribe on YouTube. Also, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all caps, no spaces, for $20 off your first purchase. My name is JT Wistersill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined by Kevin Borber, the host of Locked On Buffs. And Kevin, man, when we first sat down to do a season preview on this, and you told me one team will be ranked inside the top 20 and one won't, I'll be like, you know what? I thought the Buffs would be better this year, but I guess not. And Utah's still rolling. Nope, that is not at all what has happened. Colorado is rolling. They've won their last 3 in a row. This is a team that has really hit their stride. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter are balling. And I feel like the biggest storyline in this game is Colorado on a march to the Big 12 championship game, maybe the college football playoff. They are one of, if not the best story in college football right now.
Yeah, I honestly consider Colorado the best story. And I know people are going to be like, oh, Locked On Buffs guy considers them the best story. No, hear me out. I get the Indiana lore because Indiana's having a great year. I would hear an argument for both. But when you consider the amount of disdain, hatred, slander, and just overall displeasure that people took with Colorado last year and the doubts that they had about Colorado coming into this year, for them to not only basically double their wins. I mean, they're 1 win away from doubling their wins. But to be in position to make the Big 12 championship, like they literally win out and they're in. Like there's no like if this happens, this happens. They win out, they're in. They're in the college football playoff discussion. I feel like that has to be at least in the realm of best story in the college football season, because Colorado historically, or at least in our lifetime, right, for the most part, has not been worth mentioning in the college football storylines.
I absolutely agree. I think it's right up there. It is close between them and Indiana, because same thing. What you said about the Buffs also does apply for Indiana. But either way, like this is about what Colorado is doing.
I think the thing with Indiana is no one had any expectations. Like
true,
people are expecting Colorado to fail. So it's like,
yes,
I think the amount of people proved wrong, sort of like, I mean, Indiana, great story. I love what they're doing. 10-0 for the first time ever, which is a big deal. But Colorado's 7-2 for I think it's for the first time since 2016, and only the second time since Joe Klatt was taking snaps at Colorado. So pretty big deal.
Yeah, Joe Klatt and Gus Johnson, Jenny Taft going to be on the call on Saturday. Right. And I also really quick for the storyline, I love the point you made on how much negative vitriol has been sent at Deion Sanders at this program, and they've absolutely proved it wrong. So they're looking to keep things rolling. Utah would be nice just to try and get rolling a little bit. Haven't won a game in 5 games. Only conference win is against Oklahoma State. Technically, they did beat Baylor, but who cares at this point? I mean, it's been abysmal for Utah. I can't believe they've lost 5 in a row. They've all come down to the wire, or at least Utah's been in these games into the fourth quarter, and they've gotten away from them. But I mean, just can they finally snap out of it? I really don't know. I mean, Brandon Rose is now out for the season. You lost Brant Keithy is out for the season too. Utah's had 3 quarterback season-ending injuries, which is hard to fathom, but it's obviously goes way beyond the injuries with this team. The offense has been putrid. Over the last 5 weeks, they have the worst offense in the Big 12, and it's not.
We talk about how disappointing the offense is for Utah, and this is probably a little weird as someone for Locked On Buffs to be like criticizing them. But for those of you who don't know,
now when it comes to offensive play, we're on 2 different planets when it comes to that.
Yeah, but like I do cover Utah as well for Athlon, so I'm very I understand what's going on. I was like legitimately hyped for what they brought in. Right, they bring in Dorian Singer, who was 2 years ago the best receiver in the Pac-12. Right, they bring in Damian Alford, who's 6'6" dude from Syracuse, led the team in receiving. I honestly don't know if I had seen him until he played
Until
against BYU,
until he threw a
and the one
pass.
play, yeah, they gave him a trick play and he threw an interception. So it's like, okay, that's
Oh.
weird. And like
Mhm.
they bring in a Washington wide receiver transfer, they bring in Carson Ryan from UCLA. Like Utah, I think is, and I'll tie it back into Colorado.
Mhm.
These are two teams that are polar opposites at adjusting to what needs to be adjusted to. Utah has,
Yeah.
I mean, they had this issue last year where couldn't figure it out at quarterback and it brought the team down. Same thing this year. They have all these weapons on offense, but they don't have an answer at quarterback. I think part of it's a system, part of it's, I don't know if it's like their training program or whatever. I don't know how so many players keep getting hurt, but Colorado has been able to adapt. And I don't think Utah's been able to do that, which is what's, I think, killed them this year and last year.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the fact that every time Cam Rising goes down, you have no answers, led to Andy
Right.
Ludwig moving away. I mean, it's just abysmal. I mean, you think about the list of players you mentioned is incredible. I mean, I didn't mention Utah's lost Micah Pittman for the season as well too. Like, it really is insane, and it's such a bummer too because we'll talk about this more in the second segment. This defense is fantastic. They continue to keep Utah in games. Best defense in the Big 12 right now in terms of total defense as well as in opponents' points they allow per game. Them and Iowa State, the only two defenses holding teams under 20. The problem, Utah offense can't score 20 points, and I know they did it last week for a quarter.
Right.
One quarter, shut out outside of that. It's a total offensive failure. It falls on the quarterbacks. It falls on the play calling. It falls on the offensive line in part, even though I think the two tackles, Spencer Lomu and Caleb Fano, have been decent. It falls on the receivers for the drops in there and the running back depth, even behind Mekhi Bernard, right? It's not that remarkable. It's a total failure on the offensive side. The defense is even let down at times, just like last week. You could have gotten a stop on the final drive, and Utah's not able to do so too. So it's crazy. I mean, Utah has now lost 5 regular season games for the first time since. Kevin, I'll let you take a guess.
Oh gosh. I think it hasn't happened in Whittingham's tenure, right?
2017 was the last time they lost 5 regular season games in total, and the last time they lost 5 games in a row was the 2013 season.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought it never happened. I was like fully. I mean,
in the recent era, they've been so successful.
Right. Like I think Kyle Whittingham is just like been a staple of college football. So I don't associate that with him losing. But yeah, I think for Utah to struggle this much, I feel like it's time to have uncomfortable conversations in Salt Lake City, right? Does Kyle Whittingham, I know he came into this year sort of preaching that this was the best team in program history, right? That was like the whole thing. Best team in program history. Like this team is.
I don't know if Kyle said that. I will say that doesn't. I don't think Kyle said that per se. I think that
I do think he did. I'm gonna. I'll look it up.
Chance to be.
I'll look it up.
Okay,
but I'm pretty sure he said something along those lines, which makes it like disappointing because obviously he said that about the 2023.
I know. I said it.
Right. Said about the 2023 team, and then I want to say he said about 2024 as well. But like, even if he didn't, like, I feel like, which I'm not trying to create a false narrative, but like, he came in. Everyone came in confident, and just what was it yesterday or Saturday or whatever this was? He said this is the most frustrating season of his career. So clearly, things have changed.
Which I think last year probably would have been the other one too. So the fact that this has changed, and you mentioned the uncomfortable conversations, those get stronger if you lose 6 in a row, right? Like I think Kyle Whittingham should be the coach of Utah football as long as he wants to be in terms of the mutual parting of ways type of thing. Like I don't think the athletic department would approach Kyle of that until like another year, I want to say, but that could happen very well this year if this continues. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Either way, Utah just trying to shock the world, get an upset, get their first win in 5 games. The Buffs looking to keep rolling, trying to march to the college football playoff and get a big national win too. Big noon kickoff is one of the most viewed games each week, even if people get frustrated that it is played at noon oftentimes. But that is what the storylines are going in. So what are the keys to this matchup? That's what we're going to be talking about in one moment. Today's episode of Locked On Utes and Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. Game Time is your place to go for game picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams live play even easier. Game Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Why do I like Game Time? Because it makes the ticket process just easier. Also, it goes beyond sports tickets. You can get tickets to concert, comedy, and theater events near you. It's also the all-in pricing, a tog line featuring the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Also, that low price guarantee where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your Game Time also covers your ticket with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Capital L for locked, O for on, C for college. And those is all one word, no spaces, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Kevin, talking about the keys to this matchup, I think by far the most intriguing one is you have two guys in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter who are Heisman contenders. They are some of the best players in the conference and all of college football, going against what is one of the best defenses in college football. Some of you guys might listen to that and go, how is that the case? Well, if you did miss the stat I read earlier, they're the best defense in the Big 12. They are also, I mean, they are holding teams to just 17 points per game, which among Power 4 teams ranks 9th. So can this elite Utah defense battle out with one of the surging offenses in college football? Colorado's offense is averaging 32 points per game and has the nation's 6th best passing offense among Power 4 teams. How do you view this matchup?
Yeah, I think in a weird way, I called this a trap game earlier the week on my show because while Utah's offense, I mean, we talked about it's atrocious, right? We're not going to pretend like it's not. But Utah's defense still happens to be one of the best units in the country. They're ranked first in the country in getting teams off the field on third down. Teams convert at just a 23.8% clip. So for Colorado, you can't get stuck in these third and long situations. You can't find yourself like ending drives and without points, because then that's how kind of Utah stays in the game. And that's just not what Colorado needs. And so, yeah, I think that's my biggest concern with this game is how Colorado does against a defense this good. I don't have doubts about the offense, but I do think it'll be an interesting test for them because these are the three top defenses Colorado's face. Utah ranks ranks 14th in total defense. Nebraska was 16. And then Kansas State was 34th. So those are the two teams that Colorado lost to. Utah's defense is obviously better. That being said, both of those teams had an offense. So I think that's kind of the big difference here.
I think the key things I'm looking for is, can the Buffaloes protect Shedeur Sanders? He's been sacked a lot, 28 times on the season, 3 times against Texas Tech. Speaking of 3, Utah just got 3 sacks against BYU and applied a lot of pressure, even on the controversial call late in the game that was going to be a sack because of good blitz. And look, I want to give the Buffs offensive line credit. I do think they're playing better, and they've grown a lot over the course of the season, but this is a tough test for them. And I'm very curious to see how they respond. But you know who else is a really tough test for? The Utah secondary. Utah plays a ton of man-to-man coverage. And what is the problem with man-to-man coverage sometimes? You can give up NFL-worthy throws. No one in the country makes more NFL throws on a week-to-week basis for my money than Shedeur Sanders. I'm concerned. This is the most concerned I've been going into a game this season. I think this is a bad matchup for Utah because I do think the Buffs offensive line can give Shedeur enough time. When Utah blitzes, Shedeur is going to know where the ball needs to get out and go to. And I do believe you guys have the skill, the talented receivers too. Obviously, chief among them, the Heisman guy, Travis Hunter himself, who very well may win the whole award because of what he's able to do and the ability to break tackles. I'm concerned. I think the Buffs, it's a bad matchup for Utah on this one, on the offensive side, on the defensive side of the ball for Utah. And I think Shedeur and Travis won't go crazy in this one. But I mean, Shedeur Sanders has had over 250 yards passing in all but one game on the season, and he was at 240 yards in that one. He's going to get his yards. The Buffs are going to get their yards, and I don't see Utah really able to stop Colorado for long stretches in this game. I think it's going to be very hard for Utah to win this game if they don't score 25 points, and we know how challenging that has been for them.
Yeah, I think for me, the key for Colorado is don't let a slow start deter you, which I mean, I think that's kind of what you're hinting at as well, is can Utah keep them off the board long enough to sort of put points on the board, right? Colorado has been really bad when it comes to starting games this year. I don't know what it is. Like, they just come out and they always look lethargic. They looked legitimately rattled for like the first 10 minutes of the Texas Tech game. Texas Tech went up 13-0 in the first quarter, and then they settled down. And then Colorado's offense started clicking. Their defense is in the second half. I don't know if there's a defense in college football that's as good as Colorado's. They're only allowing 7.3 points per game in the second half. So don't let a slow start deter you, because I do think that Utah's going to come out amped up, right? Utah's in a situation where I don't want to say they're not playing for anything, because they still can make a bowl game, but in a way, they're not playing for what they thought they were. And so their main goal is to create chaos and derail a season. So that's a key for me. And then another key for me as well for Colorado is make this a game where Utah has to keep up with you on offense, because if it gets to that point, right, Utah's yet to show that they could do that. And it's not a slight on them. That's just kind of how it's
fact.
Yeah, it's a fact, as JT just put it kindly.
Yeah, I mean, it's been rough for the Utah offense. So let's switch sides of the ball, right? I mean, Utah has scored 10. Utah has scored 10 or more points in just one of their last 19 quarters, which was the second quarter against BYU. Outside of that, they have never had multiple scores. And during this losing streak, going into the BYU game, they're averaging 12 points on offense. So they're still easily averaging right around 15, I'm sure. And even the guy who led you on a couple of those drives, Brandon Rose, is out for the season. Brant Keithy's out for the season too. I mean, it's really hard for me to see Utah getting to 20 points in this game with the way the Buffs are playing. Sure, maybe they get you by surprise early, the slow start thing you mentioned, but Utah's gotten off to abysmal starts on offense. Yeah. They went 3-and-out right away last week.
Colorado's defense is good too. That's the part that people don't realize. And I think some early games kind of hurt their total defense rankings, but they are a top 10 team in sacks. They are a top, I think, 30 team, if not better, in forcing turnovers and run defense. They've just really flipped up. They've really flipped a switch, and then they kind of make it so you can run the ball, but it won't be effective. You could keep trying it, but in that time, Colorado's going to be scoring. And then it's like, okay, you don't want to run the ball anymore. Try to beat Travis Hunter. Try to beat DJ McKinney. Try to beat Preston Hodge. Like, I think Colorado maybe has one of the best secondaries in college football. So really, really underrated defense.
And Isaac Wilson will be getting the start and has only thrown 8, if not more, interceptions. It's incredibly bleak for Utah when you look at this game. Kevin, how many pass catchers for Utah playing receiver or tight end caught a pass last week that were not named Brant Keithy or Dorian Singer?
Oh, I was going to say Dorian Singer had a lot. Give me a second, because I want to say, I want to say no more than 3.
It's only one other guy. Carson Ryan caught one pass for 7 yards, and that was it.
I was going to say 3 was my number of catches, so I was pretty close there.
So yeah, you are. I mean, Brant Keithy's a massive loss. Like, yes, Utah has decent tight end depth. I like Landon King. The thought of him, it hasn't. Whether it's, apparently he ran a wrong route last week, but I still believe in his talent. I think he can be good. Carson Ryan has the potential too, but he was spending a lot of the offseason rehabbing, so I don't think he's the same player. Caleb Lohner's still learning to play football. He's had some fun moments, but we haven't seen as much of him late. So, and like the receivers, what do you say?
So learning in his final year, because obviously
in his final year, exactly. Micah Pittman's already gone. We mentioned Money Parks too. Like, Munir McClain will be out there. I feel like you have to play Damian Alford. I want them to play Damian Alford, but I don't get it. I can't. I really feel like for Utah, who averaged 19 yards per catch last year, but let's just have him throw a ball instead of run routes out here. Anyways, for Utah, it's run the ball with Mekhi Bernard as much as you can, and then just hope Dorian Singer can do something. That's your recipe for success. And if you fall behind, then you have to ask Isaac Wilson to do a lot. I still think Isaac Wilson can be a good player at the University of Utah. He should not be starting this year, and they've put him in an incredibly tough position. And the Buffs can get after the quarterback too, and Wilson hasn't always handled pressure well either. Kevin, I'm really concerned. This is, the other side of the ball is good on good. This side of the ball is pretty good in the Buffs defense on, abysmal, like we said.
The Colorado pass rushers have really turned it up the past few weeks. They are getting sacks at a crazy clip. I think, let me pull up the Texas Tech
And
stats.
Wilson will hold the ball too long. So, like, it's not even like, oh, the offensive line is getting beat constantly. There's some blitz pickup things there for sure. But, like, the bigger issue has been Wilson will hold the ball too long and then not see the field, and then he'll run into a sack.
Yeah.
And that's
so
where it's
they
tough.
had seven sacks against Texas Tech. So, like, this team, they found it. Like, they have found what they were missing, which is kind of not ironic, but funny to me, because there's a distinct video I remember from Well Off Media, which is Deion Sanders Jr., and it was Coach Prime talking to the defensive line, the pass rushers, the edge guys, and I want to say it was like early in the season, and or maybe even fall camp. I think it was early in the season, and he goes, "Where is like all of this success or whatever that you guys talk about? Like when we do one-on-ones, you guys are great. As soon as we get into the team period, nothing." Like he was just ripping them, like saying you guys have not done anything. And now Colorado has one of the best pass rushers in college football. So they just need some time to sort of figure things out. And I think there's a guy have you heard of him, JT? What's his name? Warren Sapp. I think having him on staff may help a little bit.
just a little bit. Just a Super Bowl champ. I mean, it's
Hall of Fame.
I mean, the Buffs, exactly. Hall of Famer. You got an NFL offense. You have an NFL offensive coordinator and former head coach as your current OC. It's the Buffs are trending upwards. Utah is not. Kevin, is there anything else when it relates to this matchup that you don't think we've deep dived on yet?
No, I think that's it, right? For Colorado, just I guess another key would just be don't let Utah beat you with like a gimmicky like trick play or like a special teams thing, because Colorado has been.
It's Utah's recipe for success in this game, right? Like if you're like, how did Utah win this game? I mean, should they probably force Shedeur into some turnovers? But he's got 6 interceptions. But he's still like, I think he's the best quarterback in college football. So I just don't feel like at best you get 2 turnovers on him, and maybe the Buffs cough it up one time too, so you get 3 turnovers. Utah hasn't shown the ability to cash in on short yardage on shorter fields. The field goal kicker in Cole Becker, he's been up and down. Maybe he used to play for the Buffs actually, so maybe he'll have a good. Maybe he'll have a revenge game. But I mean, I think they might need a pick. They haven't got a pick 6 this year. They could desperately use that in this game somehow. You got to get really creative to me for Utah to win this game, because I don't know how you watch the way Utah has looked, especially on offense over the last few weeks, and then go, oh yeah, on the road, Boulder, big noon there, crazy crowd, crazy atmosphere. Yeah, they'll be fine. I mean, I don't know how Utah puts together 3 touchdown drives in this game. They've done that once in the last 3 weeks, and those 3 touchdown drives all occurred in one quarter, and they didn't do anything in the second half. Yeah, and
there's only been one time this entire season, if I'm not mistaken, that Colorado hasn't scored more than 25 points. They were held to 10 against Nebraska, and that was obviously a loss, and early in the season, still figuring things out. And then they went on to score 38, 48, 28, 34, 34, 41. So this is very much like Utah can't keep up with Colorado. So for Colorado, don't play their game, because you will probably not have success in that game. But I think if this turns into a shootout, it's going to be one side's firing on all cylinders and one side shooting blanks. And I think we guess who's who.
Unfortunately, we can. This is, I mean, Isaac Wilson versus Shedeur Sanders. When we do the quarterback game in this, that's just not even fair. That's where I feel bad that Wilson has to be out there, but that's the point we're at. And we'll see if Utah can shock the world. And can they? That's what we're going to be talking about next. Who's winning, Utah or the Buffs? We're breaking it down in one moment. But first, we're both going to talk to you guys about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. On the same page where you place your bets, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And Kevin, speaking of FanDuel, this week, Buffs favored by 10. How you feeling about it?
I think they win by more, so I would definitely take that. I would definitely take that for sure. If I was a betting man, of course.
If you were a betting man. However you guys are leaning, and whether it's not even just college football, NFL, NBA, got college basketball coming back up here soon, NHL for those Utah Hockey Club fans too. So we got it all rolling right now on FanDuel. Make sure you guys head over to America's #1 sportsbook today. Alrighty, prediction time. Actually, before we do prediction, what are your thoughts, Kevin, on this game being big noon kickoff?
I mean, Big Noon loves them some Colorado, right? I think that's for
they
sure.
Actually kind of sneakily love themselves some Utah. They've come to watch Utah play a couple times over the last. I know they were there last year. I think they were there 2 years ago. And obviously, Joel Klatt has this famous death taxes in Utah football thing.
Yeah, I think honestly, I wish this matchup was what we thought it would be earlier in the year, where it's
big time, Kevin. Yep, I would love that to be the case.
But I'm glad that Colorado's getting some love. I think I saw something today at the time we were recording this, that Colorado is the only team in the country to have every single game on national television of the season. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
But it's not favorable time slots. That's where I want to stick up for your Buffs a little bit. It's like most of them at bed at like 10 p.m., right?
Stick up for me, JT. I'm out here fighting for my life, recording live reactions to games, and it's like 1 a.m. and I'm running on fumes. I'm not making sense, and I'm just going off vibes.
And that's what makes it so hard for me when I'm up at those hours, because I don't got the vibes to go off of, Kevin. The vibes are not there with Utah, but I think the Buffs deserve this, and I'm so happy this is such a non-Utah Colorado thing. I get so sick and tired when Big Noon goes to Ohio State or Michigan and they're just going to blow someone out. Not this year's Michigan team, of course, but in years past. That's where I'm so glad they're going to a game. And Colorado could blow Utah out, but at least it's not the same Ohio State game every single week. So that's why I'm happy it's on Big Noon. I think it'll be a fun for both atmospheres. I know Utah fans have got to get up a little early to watch your team, but I'm excited it's on Big Noon. I think it's fun to have one of your final games on national TV, because I don't think maybe Iowa State gets something, but I don't know with the way the Cyclones are even struggling. Speaking of this game, Kevin, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Colorado winning 35-10. I think that's probably, it feels ambitious, but I just think Colorado is going to be able to put up a lot of points. And just because Utah won't be able to match them. And I think even though Utah's defense is really good, probably elite, if you will, I just don't know how long they could sustain covering Travis Hunter, covering LeJounte Wester, covering Will Shepherd, who my Colorado fans, I think he's probably had the biggest turnaround of anyone on this team. I think it was 4 or 5 weeks ago against Baylor. He was the one that dropped the Hail Mary pass that almost ended their bid for everything. And then they obviously completed another one the next play. And then he dropped another pass the following week or something. And he's been nails since then. I just feel like Colorado's clicking on all cylinders. And I think they kind of know that with this current climate of how the playoff committee views conferences that aren't the SEC and the Big Ten, that you have to win and you have to be convincing, right? So I think another convincing win for Colorado would move mountains. They're averaging 19 points victories over their last 3. So pretty big deal for Colorado to come out and put up another big win. What do you think?
Oh, Kevin, with what we do for this job, we make a lot of predictions going into the season. Most of my predictions have absolutely face planted. I made one that's going to come to fruition this week. I picked Colorado to upset Utah earlier in the season.
That's right, you did. I remember that. Yeah.
What I was wrong about, it ain't going to be an upset. And I actually think this is the first time in history of this show I haven't picked Utah. But I don't know how you pick a top 20 team that's trending upwards versus one of the most, I would say the second most disappointing team in college football based on preseason expectations, only behind the absolute just garbage fest going on at Florida State right now. That's the only thing saving Utah from being number 1 to me. This is a team now that's back to Isaac Wilson, who started the year as their backup and became their third string because he was struggling too. You are down your best overall pass catcher. You could maybe argue is Dorian Singer. Brant Keithy's out, but you are literally down. You could, with 3 of your top 4, basically, with Micah Pittman out and Money Parks out. The defense has done good things, but like I said, I think it's a bad matchup for them with how much man coverage they're going to play against some of the best route runners and receivers in all of college football. I'm not just picking this so that I'll have a right prediction. I think on paper, it's a bad matchup for Utah. I'm not feeling good about this game at all. I think the Buffs get a statement win over Utah. And unfortunately, I'm going Colorado 31, Utah 10.
Yeah, I think honestly,
It
it's
hurt
just
Kevin.
one of those things where Utah is not the team we thought they'd be.
Nope.
I think it's a testament to injuries. I think it's a testament to play calling. I think it's a testament to sort of not the teams that we expected to be, but some of the teams in the Big 12, Colorado, for example, Arizona State, for example. Who else? I feel like I'm missing someone, but like teams that we just weren't expecting to be top of the line. Best BYU is probably the best one. They were picked to finish like 13th. These teams are just really good, and I don't know if Utah
Arizona State was picked dead last in the conference.
right. So, and Colorado was probably, I want to say 7th or 9th. So,
Yep.
like Colorado has just improved tremendously, and I just don't think Utah has stayed healthy enough, and I don't think they've improved enough.
They haven't. I mean, they had one good quarter of offense, and Brant Keithy was a huge part of that. Brandon Rose is a huge part of that. Those guys aren't out there. You're on the road, hostile environment with a lot of things going on, a lot of bad juju around this team, obviously, with everything going on with Mark Harlan and those comments too. It's not a good time for Utah football. I don't think it will be on Saturday. So we'll see how it plays out, though. Maybe Utah could shock the world, but more than likely the Buffs will keep rolling. Either way, we'll each have you covered with one more show dropping tomorrow as we are talking about what else, who might play well for Utah and who will play well for Colorado. We'll discuss it all then. Kevin, always fun jumping on these with you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for today's crossover of Locked On Utes and Locked On Buffs. We'll be back with you tomorrow breaking down Utah versus Colorado a little more.